Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills. Today is Thursday the 9th. We had the markets trading higher here. We had export sales out early on this morning, and tomorrow we have the WASDE report released out at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. Traders are looking for a little bit of a decline there in yield from the USDA, so it's going to be very interesting to see if the USDA takes their yield and lowers it here, as traders are expecting that because of the significant amounts of precipitation here that flooded out a lot of acres and also left many acres developing very, very poorly. Let's take a quick look at the grain hedge trading platform though before we continue. We will talk a little bit about trade expectations for that WASDE report. We're also going to touch on export sales, but before we get into that, let's turn over the grain hedge trading platforms. Here we close off the day. Corn trading up 3 3/4 cents on the December contract. Soybeans up 27 3/4 cents for the November contract. And wheat in Chicago mostly unchanged for the September contract, closing out the day at 577 1/4. Let's talk a little bit about export sales. You'll notice we came in within analyst expectations for corn, soybeans, and wheat. Corn booked 535,000 metric tons within analyst expectations. Soybeans 41,000 metric tons. That's positive there. Even though it wasn't a very big sale, it's good to see positive sales. Last week we had cancellations of 10,000 metric tons. Currently, soybeans is running well ahead of pace in terms of meeting USDA expectations. So those all very positive here, despite the fact it really wasn't the greatest export sale here that we've had all year long. When you look at wheat, we came in within analyst expectations, down 5% from last week, but still booking 345,000 metric tons. So that's good to see. One thing you'll notice is that when you look at the cumulative corn exports, we're at 46.2 million metric tons compared to this same time last year when we were at 47.6. So we are running behind last year's pace, but we are still ahead of the pace that we would expect to need at this time of the year to meet USDA expectations, which would be right around 45.3 million metric tons. So we are still ahead by about 1 million metric tons, so that's positive to see here for corn. Soybeans, you'll notice we didn't make any big gains here, but you'll notice we still are ahead of the pace needed to meet USDA expectations, almost 1.5 million metric tons ahead of that pace. So you'll notice we didn't get much of a change here, still 50.5 million metric tons, just about where we were last week. We are ahead of last year's pace though. Last year we were right around 45.6 million metric tons during this time. Now let's talk a little bit about new crop sales. We won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but one thing you're going to notice, corn coming in here a little bit below analyst expectations, 149,000 metric tons. Analysts were expecting 200 to 350. So a little bit of a disappointment, but nothing really too concerning here. We're very early on in that 15-16 marketing year, so really the missing expectations by about 50,000 metric tons is not a big deal. Soybeans came in here within analyst expectations with 201,000 metric tons. So that was very positive to see. Let's turn our attention now over to the WASDE report, because that's where the attention is really going to be lying in tomorrow's trade. When you look at old crop ending stock expectations, analysts, this is a poll of a number of different brokerages, all sorts of different analysts, and basically the average analyst guess is looking for about 65 million bushel decline in ending stocks for that 14-15 crop. Now in June we saw ending stocks for corn at 1.876 billion bushels. Analysts are expecting to see in this July report released out tomorrow that number sliding down to 1.811 billion bushels. So that's going to be important to see. Let's keep that number in the back of our heads, because when this report comes out, obviously the trade is going to react very sharply, or react very quickly, I should say, to these numbers. Soybeans ending stocks are expected to be right around 287 million bushels, down from 330 million bushels basically in June. And what we're seeing here is just a strong demand. really the quarterly grain stocks indicated more usage here for both corn and for soybeans. We got the quarterly grain stocks June 30th. That indicated more usage there. That helped really trigger a little bit more of a bullish reaction in prices here that we've seen over the last few weeks. And so what we're expecting to see is ending stocks really be slashed a little bit in this next WASDE report. It's going to be interesting to see if the USDA does in fact do that. When you look at ending stocks for 15-16, so next year's crop, this is going to really reflect the growing season and the growing conditions that we've been observing over the last month, which have been very wet and causing significant delays in planting in Missouri. But you'll notice corn, analysts are expecting ending stocks here for corn to be around 1.540 billion bushels. Now in June, they were looking for 1.771 billion bushels. This is a 231 million bushel revision lower here if we see if this does come to pass. So basically there are expectations here that the USDA is going to make some big revisions in this report. And this is, anytime you have these big revisions expected, you know, we could be off plus or minus any number of bushels here. And when you have these expectations and then all of a sudden maybe it doesn't fulfill, usually you get more volatility in the market, more volatile reaction in prices. So I think considering there's expectation for some revisions here, I think this is a report that you should pay close attention to. If you do need to pay close attention to it, you don't have access to live quotes. We of course do have live quotes through our demo platform. Go to grainhedge.com, put in your name and number, click on that 14-day free trial, put in your name and number, and we'll get in touch with you. Make sure that you feel comfortable with that mobile platform. You'll get live quotes right there. Now, ending stocks for soybeans here is expected to go from 475 million bushels in June down to 370 million bushels. This is a result of course, most likely acreage being lost in the eastern grain belt, acreage being lost in Missouri, yield reductions in general. So both of these I think are big numbers, and we're going to have to pay close attention to it on the WASDE report released out on Friday. We analysts are expecting ending stocks to increase here up to 861 million bushels from 0.861 billion bushels, up from 0.814 billion bushels in June. So those are really the numbers that really traders are going to be watching. How do they get to those numbers? Basically, analysts are expecting yield to be revised lower here, down from 166.8 in June. It's going to be interesting to see if we get this, but they're thinking perhaps 165.4. So a little bit of a decline in yield there, both for corn and for soybeans. But other than that, guys, that wraps up today's show. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, please give the office a call. The number is 877-472-4607. And if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and take a demo. It's a great platform. You'll definitely be able to navigate through it with ease. It's one of those platforms that's just intuitive. And if you have any trouble with it, you can always reach out to us and we'd be happy to help. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you here Friday for the weekly wrap-up.